Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hi everyone, it's another episode of the Mimi and Greg Show. In this episode, we go a little dark as the world around us is entrenched in so much controversy. So hang in there with us. Greg expresses his thoughts on Russia and Ukraine, climate change, cyber attacks, and the difficulties the LGBTQ plus community is facing right now, especially in Florida. This can be described as a yo-yo episode of ups and downs, as we do share a few laughs regarding his reunion working with Ed Brubaker on the Batman Caped Crusader animation. Don't forget, we are also streaming these podcasts on YouTube for anyone interested in seeing some of the amusing facial expressions we made during this episode, especially Greg's impersonation of his dog Marlo. Unfortunately, during this episode, it seems like we had some technical difficulties with our connection, so if the sound goes in and out, I apologize. These things are beyond our control, but it is still a really great conversation, so please listen with that in mind. For those that don't already know, Greg Rucka is a New York Times bestselling author of hundreds of comics and nearly 24 novels. He is also the writer for his critically acclaimed and award-winning film, The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I'm loving these conversations and hope you are too. If you are, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. If you would like to support with a donation to help keep this podcast going, you can become a patron of the show by visiting my website or patreon.com/SifuMimiChan. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan. Now on with the show. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Mimi. How are you?
Very good. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yes.
I like the necklace.
Thank you. I'm trying to embellish a little more. It's just a gift, and I realize I now that I'm doing these on YouTube that I like wear the same black shirt every week. So I'm trying to mix it up.
No, you should. I think YouTube appreciates consistency.
Yeah.
He said with absolutely no authority whatsoever.
Well, the one thing I am is very consistent.
There you go. Yes, see, we're back again. So
exactly. Consistently always want to have Greg Rucka on my show, our show, rather,
the consistent
Mimi and Greg show.
The consistent Mimi and Greg show. Yes.
That's right. Very much so. It's funny because I had one of my Patreons reach out on one of my blog posts, and I was, talking about my collaboration on a comic with Gene Young, and he's like, "Oh, we're going to be able to play the what is it? How many degrees of separation to Greg Rucka now?"
A game that sadly has been played for a good 20 odd years, I think. So you now get to join it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So lots of fun with that.
I'm responsible for infecting a few people with comics over the years. So
yes, you are.
I apologize.
No, not at all. But of course, also even leading to this show, having guests, and of course, I just had the lovely Kelly Sue on, and we talked about her, and then we talked about you, and
the shiny and brilliant Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah. And she'll be coming back on because then she can reveal her secret project, which I did get to kind of hear about. So
it's exciting.
Yes,
it's exciting.
Super exciting, and she's just awesome. So it was always nice to catch up with her. So it's a lot of fun. She gave Marlo a shout out on air.
Oh. That's sweet. My poor neurotic dog. So.
Your dog's gotten a lot of airtime on this show.
She is having a time of it. Let me tell you, she is having a time. She did not get groomed for nigh under 3 months, and had this big, had just fluffed up into this big matted coat. And we had false spring one, and she had a grooming, and they just sheared her down. So. Which, I love her regardless of how she looks.
Right.
But her sheared down, sleek look, I find particularly aesthetically pleasing, and also really nice to pet. She gets so many bonus pets after that kind of grooming. Okay. And then the temperature plummeted, and she was just looking at us like, "You bastard." You've
taken away my coat.
Exactly. I mean, it was literally she would get on the bed, and when it's really cold, I will cover her with a blanket. And she has a maneuver like when we're in the dining room and we're having dinner and her dishes are off to the side, and she'll do this where she'll be like, I'm looking to the dish. I'm looking to you. Dish.
Very clear communication.
Yeah, it's absolutely like, why is it empty? And this was on the bed looking from me to the blanket to me with those big puppy soulful eyes. And it's like, yes, okay, I'll cover you. So there you go.
Well, to be fair, she was
no.
a few layers.
Look, both kids out of the house, we got to spoil somebody. So
that's right. That's right. And Marlo's very happy to take the position.
Oh, yeah. She has yet to say, no, that's enough, really. Right. Stop.
Yeah, I don't foresee that coming anytime soon.
Neither.
I mean, you've been traveling, so I know she doesn't like that.
I was in California.
So
I was in California at the beginning of the month for about a week to see my mom, who turned 83.
Oh, wow.
No, 82. And if she will never hear this, but she would be furious that I added a year.
Yes, how dare you? I
guarantee you she will never hear this. There is not a snowball's chance in hell she will hear this. It is just not. Podcasts, to her, podcasts are far too complicated.
Right.
And mom's got Parkinson's, and she is mentally still there. Physically, it's getting very difficult.
Yeah.
And Parkinson's is degenerative. There isn't the best care available to her where she lives. And I have to skirt around the NDA stuff here. I am going to be in Europe for a lot of the Old Guard 2 production. And that is starting to ramp up. Yep. I have to figure out how to skate the vague with so there was, aside from just, not having gotten to see her much over the pandemic, aside from it being her birthday, it's also the fact that I'm going to be out of the country conceivably for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
At an indeterminate time starting in the next 8 to 12 weeks, maybe. But that's sort of in flux too. It's very strange. And you've been, you've seen this. The way Hollywood is like, we are doing this thing and we're getting this thing. And then the second they need you, everything moves so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes from 0 to you are going to be on a plane in 3 days.
Travel will be intense. Yes.
Yeah. And as a result, I wanted to see her. And then, I got back, and then there was work, and then Jennifer went out to New York for a week and then came back with Dashiell for spring break. And I am leaving for Europe on Monday for about 2 weeks. And then we'll be coming back, hopefully. And then at that point, probably at some point going to the production. So all of this is a long way of saying that, my neurotic dog is going to be so neurotic because people are just coming and going like crazy. And she's like, where's the pack? What's going on with the pack? So.
Yes. I mean, and there's been so many adjustments too. And speaking of NDAs, speaking of NDAs that we can't actually talk about.
Yes.
Let's violate. Yes. Well, no, I mean, we're not violating. We're just like, going off of what other people have said. And so obviously the internet kind of exploded when Greg Rucka joins Ed Brubaker on Batman Cape Crusader TV series. Kind of went kind of crazy.
Yeah, that one's hard to claim NDA on when Ed puts in a newsletter Craig Stucca.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's like, nice, Ed. He sent me it after he'd sent it out too. And he said, what'd you think? I thought it was pretty funny. And I was like, you are such a goof. I love you. And it's funny because I actually got to see Ed in person when I was down in California visiting my mom.
Awesome. Yeah.
He actually lives fairly close.
Oh, nice.
To where my mom is and where I grew up now.
Oh, okay. Like on the coast or something, right?
He's and so we got together for coffee and got to catch up and see each other. But yeah, so I don't think it's trouble to say Ed reached out in December and said, I don't know if you know, I'm head writer, sort of show running this thing with Bruce for the new Batman animated. And we've broken the season and we have a couple of freelance episodes. And there are 2 that we'd like you to consider. We would like you to write one of them. And he gave me 2 choices. And I said, I'll take that one. Like I didn't even need to pause. I was like, that one.
Right.
And he was like, are you sure? Because I was thinking this one. I was like, no, that one. I'll do the other one too if you want. But I want that one. Yeah. So when it is revealed, everybody will go, of course he did. Of course he did. But it's it's Ed. So, and it's Bruce Timm, and it's, this crew of other people that I never met before, and they are all so dialed in.
Yeah.
And they basically gave me the outline to the episode and said, give us your notes. And I gave them some notes, and then it went through approvals, and they came back and they were like, okay, write it. So I was like, okay. Written. And I love Bruce Timm notes. Bruce Timm notes are absolutely no bullshit, no screwing around notes.
Okay. They
are, and I appreciate this because it's old school. They're in red ink.
Nice.
And it's a circle and an X and an arrow and don't do this and change this. And writing for animation is different than writing for screenplay or for live action, I should say.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, and it's funny, Ed has said, I believe he said in was it Variety or Deadline that broke it initially when he was announced? Mm-hmm. But, Ed talked about how the Batman the Animated Series was sort of set the table for him. And it absolutely is the same for me, right? I don't write Renee Montoya unless Renee Montoya is created for the animated series and I meet that character when I am in grad school, in the afternoons on, at USC getting my graduate degree and have been, and Jen and I are newlyweds, which gives you an idea of how long ago this circle starts, right? Because I'm writing novels and I'm training to be a writer. That's what I want to do. But I get into comics, because I'm a comics fan. I start with Oni. That puts me in front of DC, which puts me in front of Denny because he knows my novels, which leads to the first story I ever wrote for them was a Renee story, and so it is very much, time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
And being able to sort of, at 52, come back to this place I was at 22. At 24, writing this stuff. And it's Bruce Timm, man. It's like I say, there wasn't any hesitation because what Ed was offering was an extraordinary and rare opportunity. I don't think we are fortunate in our lives when something comes around that is that personally resonant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the benefit of having 30 years of work behind me that there's a whole bunch of stuff that can
yeah,
be.
it didn't just like randomly come up. I think it's very clear why you were chosen, but it was very exciting, and you can just see, I mean, I'm not like a blog follower, post, Reddit, all of that. But I mean, people have been texting me and saying things, and I've been seeing lots of like excitement about like the dream team is back, and
you know me, my head is so down on most stuff anyway. So the idea, I wasn't really aware. I got posted to the Discord. And then you posted as well, and it was like, oh, okay, well. But you know me, I'm not going to go out swimming in the unregulated deeps of the internet to see what people are saying, because I'm sure somebody immediately was like, great, he'll make them all gay, I think the next time somebody accuses me of that, I'm going to be like, oh, that's so past. That's so 20 years ago. No, now they're all going to be gender fluid and in open relationships. I mean, what can I do to really
like, I keep up with the times, don't you know?
I'm so woke. It's all performative.
And obviously, you're going to introduce everyone by pronouns first, and then their name, and then you'll have like several acronyms to accompany it.
Wouldn't that be the funniest thing in the world? I'm Batman. That's him.
Oh, that is so a video snippet right there.
I mean, oh my God. Actually, what would be awesome would be, I'm Batman, they, them. That would be even more amazing. Watch the cease and desist. You're going to get a cease and desist from Warner Brothers now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Movie out. Don't hurt it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's just so funny. No,
wouldn't it be? I mean, oh my God,
it would be something.
Laughing. It would be hilarious.
Yeah, that might be a Saturday Night Live thing that needs to happen. They can get away with it.
Though. It's interesting. You've talked to Angela. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about, and I say this, as somebody who is very aware of the pronouns people want to use. Mm-hmm. There is an element where we were discussing the performative nature of it. At certain points, like in certain correspondences, and so on, people will draw, here's my sig file, my name, friends, he, him.
Yep. Like I have it on mine, just at the bottom, the signatures. Right. Yeah.
And on the one hand, I'm like, that's, it is, if it's being presented as information, like so many things, there is a danger of it being presented as a tag. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is saying, see, look at me. I'm
I got it. I'm yeah.
And it's like that's great that you're saying it. Are you doing it? This is not me saying don't at all.
Right. Yeah. And it's just there's.
It's like so many things. It gets complicated and it's nuanced. Mm-hmm. And boy howdy, we don't do well with the nuance these days.
No, we sure don't. I mean, I've gotten to so many difficult conversations because of that, right? And it's like the more social justice work that I've done, the more I realize I am in circles in which that I felt that it would be important to have that there, and also, also to be supportive, but also just because it's like, I realized, especially with Make Us Visible Florida, like that was something that I felt comfortable with. But at the same time, you're right. On one hand, it's like, am I just flaunting that I'm woke or that I'm, and I'm trying to like portray something. And I'm like, and then you start going down this rabbit hole of like overthinking it, which I do anyway. And it's just, it gets complicated. But then other people get so angry, like it's such a trigger,
It is an interesting question, right? Because in the same way that in the US, the majority of the society presumes a cis white male position. Mm-hmm. The presumptive nature of that is that pronouns are directly gendered to traditional gender stereotypes. If you meet me, I'm a he, him. And that isn't, look at me. That is not, when you look at me, an unreasonable assumption to me.
Yeah, of course.
So the act of saying, actually, I'm using they, them, if I were, I am not, but if I were, is in that instance not just an act of visibility, right, but of also of self-affirmation and inclusivity. If you then choose to reject it, that's a choice you're making, right? But if when we had first met, your second question or your first question after very nice to meet you, Greg, what are your preferred pronouns? I'm not sure. It wouldn't have been a problem for me, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure it would have been an expectation for you to ask. Mm-hmm. For those of us who have the comfort of these established identities, I guess, needing to then go out and assert those identities, it is in a way, like I say, so it can be seen as allyship. It can be seen as advocacy for those who do not have that privilege. But also at the same time, I worry that it's a little performative. And I suppose what I'm ultimately saying is it comes down to the need for me to listen to those people who are fighting and being attentive to what they need from me. Mm-hmm. Wow, this just went. Hi, you want to talk about the war? I mean, where else do you want to go? That's something that happened while I was away, right?
Well, we really went back into like COVID discussions where we're like, oh, and all this. Well, I'm also in Florida, right? And so I also feel that like I'm in a different place where it is important to constantly ensure those around me in my environment that I am an ally, right? And so I think there's also a difference of, hey, I'm in New York City, or I'm in, blah, blah,
and
it's like
right, or Portland perhaps, or whatnot.
And
you have the added issue of you're an Asian woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, see, I that is an absolutely, I absolutely 100%. And I guess that's it. I'm in a doubly privileged position. I am in an environment where anti-gay, anti-trans legislation is not going to get passed in Oregon with this governor. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
What's happening in Idaho? What's happening in Georgia, what's happening in Florida, what's happening. I mean, the list goes on, is so horrifying and frightening and mean. It's just mean. And the precedents that are being created, if these things stand, are absolutely terrifying. Because it is literally one step from you cannot say gay you cannot say Muslim. You cannot say Jewish. You cannot say black. You cannot say, you know what I mean? I mean, it is literally, you cannot say slavery.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know what you mean.
It is.
It's been very jarring, and my heart's been breaking like over the last several weeks with this whole legislative session and in all the meetings that I'm in and all of those circles and stuff. And that's why it's like, so this is why I especially choose like on my Zoom calls, like all of these things I feel like are very important in the environment in which I am. At the same time, I am not also like, I don't get mad or whatever when people don't put their, you know what I mean? It's not for me. It's not for me to say. Right. And but you're right.
It's judgment on anybody else.
Yeah, of course. But it is concerning that things are performative. And that's the whole thing about social and everything too. Right. Like, like the whole Ukraine thing. I mean, oh my God, like some of the posts that I've seen that have been forwarded to me, because I've been disengaged, but people are sending me stuff where they're like, just, it's performative, right? Like their support for the Ukraine and all of that. And it's just like, no, here's a list of things you can do if you want to support. You don't need to do these things, but this is the nature of our society.
Though I will say, and I probably should have gotten there faster, but I think, in listening to what you just said, the act, again, specifically talking to you about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Your insistence on putting that out there and saying, use he, her, or she, her, is right now where you are a form of protest. Right. Yeah. It is actively defying your government, your state government. Mm-hmm. Right. It is acknowledging something that they are trying to erase. I acknowledge trans identity. And in that sense, then it is pure advocacy. There's nothing performative about it.
But it does raise a lot of interesting thoughts, because it really does matter like where you are, what environment. I mean, literally we're both in the United States, but it's such a difference from where you are and where I am, and the things that we are, doing, like it's just construed differently. So yeah, it's something. It certainly is something, and that can get depressing really quick. So going back to comics.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Let's talk about comics.
Right. Back to comics. No, I mean, it has been, and just to kind of wrap up on the depressing part of the week. I mean, I'm speaking to you, and literally yesterday was the big 1 year, marking of the Atlanta shooting last year. And just the fact that there are so many Asian women that have been attacked and killed. And I think I just saw like a child attack the other day. Like it's not getting better, but then the media is so out of sight, out of mind with things. It's like, you don't get things unless they're shoved in your face. And as you and I have talked about many times, like we don't search things out, but we're in a really tough time. Like we've talked about this through COVID, like there was some dark times with COVID, and there was a lot of really crazy stuff, of course, kicking off with the murder of George Floyd. And there was all that uprising and upheaval. And then like, but you're looking at now, I'm like, Oscar and I sit here and it's like, we struggle to feel happy, because it's like, we almost feel guilty when I know people are living in a tunnel in Ukraine, and they've like, they're hiding, for their lives, and they're trying to escape. And I just like, you almost have this sense of like, how am I supposed to feel right now? But all of these things are happening. And I know in the world, there's always something happening. Like not to say that this is the only thing, like, in Rwanda, there's something always happening. And, I get that, but, it's still not, like,
as human beings, we're not wired for the amount of incoming information that we're getting in this era. I mean, we're not. It's too much.
I think that's it.
And part of that means, I think, that, humans are naturally, it takes effort to eliminate empathy from the human condition. You need to have it broken out of you. Trump is a great example of that, right? Everything we know about his narcissism arises from the fact that that empathy was destroyed for him very early on, right? But that's a human being who actually has no conception and no interest in how other people feel, right? There is no capacity to imagine there. And that is an unnatural state, I would argue. And it's an unnatural state, and I would argue it's an unnatural state for a variety of reasons, and there are scientific reasons, and there are sociological reasons, there are anthropological reasons. You can go on back. But, I was talking about Marlo as a pack animal, and what's going on with my pack. Human beings are pack animals. We make communities. We make societies. And for communities and societies to work, that requires an acknowledgement of the life that exists outside of you and the needs and desires and wants of the other. And from that comes the stunning realization for many people that you're just like me. You want many, if not all, of the same things that I want at a core level, right? So it is not wrong or bad that we look at the news and be moved and we want to care and we want to act. But we're not made for navigating a community this large. And the result of that is that we have to we have to practice the self-care we talk about. We have to be able to know where sort of the borders are and what we can do, what we should do, what we cannot do right now. The need to protect our energy and to protect that empathy, because what happens, I think, is that there's a risk of overload and then shutdown. When the system can't take anymore, it turns off. And as compassionate, somehow still optimistic members of the human race, we don't want to disengage entirely. And this potentially, arguably, because this is a core simplicity, right? We can look at it and we can go, what's happening is bad. People are dying. And I'm not even going to get into, well, no, because I just opened it up. The media is covering this in a different way than it covers when this happens to people who are brown. All right. Yeah. So let's acknowledge it and get it out there. What's happening in Ukraine is being covered in a different way. The images are more commercial. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, we put that over here. Let's acknowledge that ugly truth. Put it down for a second. The interesting thing is that it is, I think, triggering a core empathy amongst the majority of people who see this. And I may be wrong in that it may be the majority of white people who are seeing it. But that core empathy trigger is actually translating into 50 balkanized states sort of coming together a little more into a cohesive unit. Mm-hmm. And that is good, because there are things that absolutely cannot be solved. They can only be solved one of two ways. Either we all come together and we do it, or we hope for like the most benevolent fascist ever. And benevolence and fascism don't actually go
like
together.
An oxymoron or something, right? Is that
exactly
the grammatical term? I don't remember.
Like, we need a warrior queen who will be, Eric Troutman is fond of saying when we are having, say, trouble with a production thing or talking about, business or whatnot. He's fond of saying, kill one, train 1,000. And there is an argument to be made for kill one, train 1,000. Yeah. The reason we don't do that is that it's immoral. I mean, it's ghastly. You don't do that. But you know what I mean? So this is why I prefer the, hey, why don't we all work on it together solution?
That's so logical, though. And
I know. It's
moral.
Insane. And then we have Joe Manchin going, I like coal.
Oh, well, yeah, it's an interesting time, that's for sure, which is why more than ever we need our fiction and our comics and our film. And, one of the things I love that Kelly Sue was just like, again, harping on, it's like comics is a medium, not a genre. And, so people can kind of start to learn a little more. But like, yeah, it's been even more because I've read a few nonfiction books in the last, few weeks, and I'm getting things out of them, but I don't want to. I don't want to learn right now. I just want to read my enjoyable things and,
Put it down and find some YouTube videos that you're enjoying. Find a show you like.
Right. Yeah.
The great thing, we talked about it last time. I'm still working my way through Dropout TV.
Yes, you are.
And I'm loving it. I am loving it. And now I'm branching out. I'm starting to watch the other stuff. And I'm like, this is great. I laughed. Yeah. It made me laugh. It is joyful and infectious and inventive and guerrilla, and I love it. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay for you and Oscar to hold hands and laugh. Yes, I know, right? That's the thing. Yeah, we have to, or we won't survive. To be honest, right? Like, there's no survival if you just try to take all that on. It's just. Yeah, no, we got it. As we seem to do. So we should call it the Mimi and Greg self-care show, I guess. Okay. No, I don't think that's a good title. You could ask the Patreon to be like, what do we call these? But though I guess they're called the Mimi and Greg show. Yeah, these are called them. It was really cute too, because Kelly Sue was also like, well, isn't Greg like your co-host? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Co-host amongst us. Next time we'll both interview her. Right. Oh my gosh. We should totally do that. Well, hopefully we'll catch you in between your travels and everything, because that'll actually be a lot of fun. But it's not the last time. And and at some point, I would love to be, I would love to be able to do this from wherever I am. Yes, I'm game. Point, so. I'm totally game, or I'd like to be there. Well, that's something else. We can talk. It's kind of like I always interview the team from Warrior, and I'm constantly inviting myself. Well, they actually extended the invite first. Great interviews. Thank you. I mean, there's so much connectivity. These guys are awesome. I mean, I think it's one of those productions where talk about a family unit, and they're just something about it was really, really special for the timing of it, but also just the crew. They're just awesome. And so I keep inviting myself to South Africa. I feel like I'm eventually going to show up, and, I'm trying to do the same thing here. So, but it is exciting, and this is why I think people were so freaking excited about Cape Crusader, but also like you and Ed together again. It was just like this feeling of nostalgia and happiness and knowing how awesome that is. Suck. Yeah.
Remember when Batman? Oh, right.
Right.
So it's people are super, super psyched about it. And it's really cool to hear you guys were hanging out in California and stuff because we had such a great time. So I was going to tease that, he was name dropping you because, that's his thing. So you were the big name drop
had a
last
slow
week.
Ed was having a slow week. But no, it was, it's my first, no, this would be the second time I've written something for animation, but the first time I did it was so like, here's a script. And then they were like, see you later. And then when I saw the final product, I was like, wow, they didn't follow the script at all. Like at
I hate that.
all. And this, it's very clear. It's very clear that's not going to be what happened, right? Because nothing in this script is everything's approved. And if it's approved, that means it's going to be overseen all the way through. So I don't know actually when the show is supposed to drop.
Either.
It will be one of the first episodes. And the show is very much, it's got a vision. It's got a complete vision. It is building. The stuff they told me got me very excited. I got to see some of the design stuff.
Yeah.
And just everybody I talked to, they're all in. So it's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is where it's always a relief. Like you always hear about a series. And I mean, like, for example, Netflix is doing the Avatar Last Airbender, the martial art thing. And the first, the film was disaster. And so people are so scared and worried, but then they start to see casting and they're starting to feel more comfortable. So it's just like, oh, Batman, oh, Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka. And you feel good. You feel good knowing it's at least got a chance because it's in the good hands, when you see, something come out and you're like, those are interesting choices. And you hear storylines. I mean, the same thing with the Mulan film, like the live action, there was choices that were made and you just get sad over something that was, or is important to you. And Batman certainly is one of those things, but especially this animated series, people are really looking forward to it and needing it, right? Like needing that, like what we just talked about. You've got your Dropout TV and, it's just,
give me my escape. Give me my place where I can feel emotionally and mentally safe and just for a little bit. I don't have to live in there. I'll come back out. I'll interact with the world.
You will get caught up in the fantasy.
I mean, mask mandate's over, and you're like, I'm having anxiety about that. I know. I know everyone outside of Florida that you're not used to that type of environment. Let me assure you, it's going to be okay because it's pretty much been like that for all of COVID for here. Everyone always talks to us like we're just in another planet, because our government operates so differently. But it is. I mean, this is the one thing, right? Like finally we're coming out of that really scary part of COVID where we're now like seeing that, okay, we know people and they're not going to the hospital. There's a new Omicron variant.
There's always going to be a new variant. Yes. There's always going to be a new variant, but
and we will, again, we'll see what it brings.
We'll see what it brings. Yeah.
We are moving from pandemic to endemic, I guess. This is just going to be the state of the world.
You know me, I'm super cautious and especially with those around me and, I lean on Oscar for that, but we listen to like Peter Attia, the doctor, and that's just lots of really great information that made me feel for the first time, kind of like, okay, because he always has really great people on too. And so, but again, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, over in Asia, it's kind of going crazy again. So you just don't know. But it's all good. We're here and we're still doing this thing and we're still podcasting and Zoom and
I get to see you.
I get to see you. I know. I mean, I can't even imagine a world without like the internets of Skype and Zoom and how we've all been able to interact, I don't think we would have done a very good job of surviving the pandemic.
Well, right. I mean, we jump back to, what we were talking about 15, 20 minutes ago, which is that interconnectivity is part of the problem, but that interconnectivity is also part of the solution. Mm-hmm. The
double-edged sword.
Yeah. The ability to reach out to others and to communicate and affirm is vital.
Yeah.
So I still, I have yet to be moved from my position on, burning all social media. I'm yet to see any evidence that it does more good than harm.
Right. This is the thing. It's the key there is more good than harm. We get that there is good that can come of it, but it's the scale.
Yeah.
Right. It's the scale. So,
it's incredibly telling when, within 24, 48 hours of, Twitter and all these things banning the Russian bots, all of a sudden Twitter seems to have become marginally more civilized. It's like, I am always reminded whenever discussions like this come up about the fact that Russian troll farms made a project of panning The Last Jedi. Like, apparently that was a test case project of going after that movie and really, and wow, was it wildly successful. Now, you don't need to like that film.
Right.
I personally love it. Right. I think it's probably the best one since Empire. I thought it was brave in its choices. I love that movie, but that's my opinion. Right. And I'm willing to say it's my opinion. But there was, I read 2 separate articles about the fact that they were able to trace back all this data and that the majority of the movement had come out of these bot farms. And you can hear it even as I talk about it to you that I have to qualify opinion about the movie because it muddied things so much. I genuinely don't know who thought it was an affront to God and man and who was like, it's okay, and who was like, I loved it. I don't know. What I do know is the direct result of that was Rise of Skywalker. Right? The direct result of that was the next movie Disney made and every choice Disney made to make it was driven by what we now know was in large part a manufactured hatred. Now, take out The Last Jedi and take out Rise of Skywalker and insert the last election and insert the next one. And insert Ukraine, insert anything you like there. And the propaganda weaponization and the absolute moral bankruptcy and advocacy of Google and Facebook and Twitter, and the list goes on, and even TikTok, all of these places, it is unforgivable. It's unforgivable. There is a desperate need to regulate this shit. There are plenty of places,
more than ever, too.
Yeah. There are plenty of places on the internet people can go to say whatever the hell they want. They exist. They've been there all along. They were there at the start. They were called Usenet groups, right? You can go out there, scream on your cruddy stained soapbox till your heart's content. The willing donation of the megaphone to voices that under no account should ever be amplified is unforgivable. It isn't a question of freedom of speech. It's not. It just isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I mean, this is something I've been concerned about. And of course, now you're hearing, oh, okay, here's because Russia, the sanctions actually have been a little bit effective and they're getting a little bit pissed off. And like, gee, how are they going to fire back? I mean, they're not just going to throw nuclear bombs right away. Like the cyber is like the first line, right? And so it's like, oh, well, they've already done a pretty good job of disrupting and it's only going to get worse. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to any of that and not looking forward to that.
No, I mean, and we don't know how this is going to shake out. And Putin is clearly paranoid, and I don't know if he's unhinged, but he's certainly, operating in a self-validating bubble where facts don't actually enter into it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I do know that Russia was never our friend and never has been.
Right.
And that doesn't mean they've always been our enemy. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
right. And again, when I say Russia, I am talking about the body, the government. Politic,
right. Not Russian people.
I'm not talking about Russians who are like, you know what I want to do today? I would like to get up, go to work, come home, make love with my husband, raise kids, get educated, make things better a little bit.
Yeah. And actually seeing the Russian people protesting and just like that bravery was really hard.
Did you see the footage of the woman who had a blank sign and got arrested for it?
No.
Yeah, literally, I think she was in St. Petersburg, and there's just footage of this woman holding up a literally white piece of poster board, nothing written on it, and the cops dragging her away. It's like, yeah, that's what authoritarianism looks like. Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it brings back a lot of frightening imagery for me. I'm always worried about what China is going to be doing next. And I honestly, and I've said this before, and probably just like putting that nail in that coffin, that I don't actually think I can go back to China based on how vocal I've been. And I feel like I'm not nearly important enough to be of interest, but at the same time, they can do whatever they want. So I actually feel like it would not be safe. But yeah, I mean, it brings back that whole Tiananmen Square thing. And then the fact that when we would go to Tiananmen Square, right before you get off the bus, they tell you that never happened. We're not allowed to talk about that. And if we talk about it, they may come and take me away as a tour guide because they'll think we told you about it. So don't say anything. And we're just like, oh, okay.
Guess what? It did happen. Except
but it's
Orwellian. It is Orwellian.
Yes, it's Orwellian. Exactly.
And the situation with Russia and Ukraine bears directly on China and Taiwan.
Yep. I know. This is the first thing Oscar said. He's like, "Oh, Taiwan, poor Taiwan." It's
yeah. And yeah, it is. Like I say, we are in a place where if you look at it for too long, you enter into a doom spiral. You really do, because it could go so catastrophically wrong. And that's not talking about all the other issues we need to deal with. The current, the latest climate report saying, no, guys, we're now out of time.
For real. Right?
Yeah, really, it's done now. Like,
I mean, if all the earthquakes and the typhoon, all these things that I don't even get enough to, I'm like days behind. Apparently there was an earthquake in Japan and people, I'm days behind on all of these like weather, crazy things. I mean, literally trees just fell on our van and it can't work now because the windshield's cracked because there was like random tornadoes and stuff. Like, wait, what? From
Jesus.
where? In Orlando. Yeah. Like, I was like, what's happening? Like Mother Nature is telling us something by all of these things. And it's just,
Walker of Walker and Mackenzie lives in Sydney. And last weekend had to spend the whole weekend, he and his bride, cleaning mold out of their home because it has been raining so much.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And literally was running stuff to the dry cleaners. And apparently on the first load, the dry cleaner has said, mold? Because everybody's coming in. This isn't because
everywhere.
They're not. This isn't you have a messy house. It has been raining nonstop in summer temperatures for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the flooding is out of control. But think about that. The amount of rain is so great that you open up your closet and there's mold on your clothes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
I would probably die because I'm allergic. And so literally people are having, that leads to health issues.
Yes. And there's going to be, there's a ripple effect of that. That is directly going. So when we talk about the effects of climate change, right? And Trump sits there and goes, everybody's going to have beachfront property. It's like, that they won't be able to enjoy.
Yeah. Because
they will be suffering a variety of health-related ailments that come from the radical changes in the environment. Like, this is not simply species are going to die. Yeah. Right? This is just everything goes. Mm-hmm. So, boy, we are yo-yoing like crazy on this podcast this time, right? We're like up, down,
up. I think this is a little bit of a rough one, but I feel like it's okay. I think everybody kind of sometimes needs to hear it, like get the Rucka rant. I mean, it's okay. I think that we are feeling what we're feeling and acknowledging it, and then going, here's what we're going to do. But we always. Oscar and I was like, see, Greg was right. It's all about the money and it's all about the greed. And but here's the thing with the climate change and then the mold so now literally our car, we can't get fixed because the insurance won't even pick up the phone, right? But we pay them, right? And now insurance rates are going to go up and now people won't get insured because everyone has mold in Australia. They're not going to cover that anymore, right? And it's like, oh, maybe when those companies and the bigger companies start getting affected and they're, nobody decides they're going to even get insurance anymore or something, right? But it's like, you're right. It's not just, it's going to rain a lot, right? There's so much more that's affected. And there's got to be there's got to be some sort of financial impact to people who can help actually make these changes.
I mean, there is, again, another benefit of the situation as it's developing may well be that we're going to see some meaningful legislation that says we are moving away from fossil fuels. All right. We're going to need fossil fuels to keep the military running for a while. And since that's the majority of our budget, you guys will be okay. But we got to get viable alternatives right away because this is absurd. Mm-hmm. The people who are going, Biden is responsible for gas prices. It's like,
I saw your post.
Bite me.
Right.
You have no idea. Americans are so fucking spoiled when it comes to gas.
Yep.
So
you posted all the other country pricing and it's, I was just in Iceland, right, in December. And I'm like,
and remember this, and remember this, they're on metric.
Oh yeah.
They're not filling up by the gallon. They do it by the liter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
when we were in Iceland, I had to do the calculation. I'm like, oh my God. This is like $100 tank, because you're like, gas, in Iceland, it's like thousands of kronos. So you have no idea until you do the calculation. But the pricing is so outrageously different. And like you said, in Europe and all those other places, it's like triple, double what we're. Yeah.
Is your journey really necessary? Mm-hmm. Do you really need to your car for that?
Yeah.
And under the right conditions, we have seen that people unite in adversity. And maybe the positive note to end on is that for all of the dreadful uncertainty right now, Putin made a horrible miscalculation and thought that the West would continue to do what the West has been doing for the last 20, 25 years. And instead, everybody sort of looked up and said, no. That's not cool. Stop it. And we can't stop you, but we can hurt you. Mm-hmm. And maybe we will have to be moved to stop you. And then we get into a whole other theoretical discussion, but
we shall see.
You'll see.
We shall see. All right. Well, on that note,
we have to lift our heads up.
We do.
We have to take care of ourselves. We have to give the help where we can. We have to look for the people who are helping. Mr. Rogers advised us, right? Mm-hmm. And, as Dan Rather got a whole bunch of stick before he stopped, being an anchor. He used to sign off. For a while, he was signing off saying courage. And I remember at the time people were like, oh my God, there's something to that. Courage. Because courage requires hope. Courage is a thing that I think most of us have far more of than we give ourselves credit for. This is a time for courage. Because it takes a lot of courage to get up in the morning these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do the Kelly Sue route, get out of bed because of spite. Right. Or courage. But you can have a cup of each and figure out what the day needs. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, until next time, I'll definitely make some show notes to have a light episode next time. But
this one's all over the place, guys. First time.
I think it's pretty typical of our show. Not worried about it at all.
We should do a theme show. That's what you should do. A poll.
A poll? Okay.
Yeah, do a poll and be like, they have to do the show. And they're not allowed to say this, or
we're not allowed to say puppets. Social media.
Yeah, or the orange shit Gibbons name or something. Just anything. So,
I'm sure we'll figure it out. I'm gonna put it out there. I will take that advice.
Yeah, so. It'll be entertaining.
It will be. All right. Until next time, sir. Always good to see you.
It's great to see you. Give love to Oscar, and I look forward to talking soon.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.